thanks for the talks up to now. All three of them had some great data visualizations in. I particularly enjoyed your talk, Sophie. I was in market research for over 20 years, and I was so glad to get out and get into data visualization. And now I'm thinking, oh no, it's got cool in the last 5 years. Maybe life could have been different. But anyway, I'm here. I want to talk to you about data visualization. I don't run the Data Visualization Society or anything. I just wear their T-shirts. I'm involved in on the board, and I've handed out some stickers. So it's nothing. Where are we? Okay. So yes, I'm not here in that capacity or anything like that. I just want to talk to you about why data visualization is important. I should say I gave this talk internally at Groupon to a load of data scientists there. You'll be pleased, or you might not be pleased to know that the talk lasted an hour then, but I've cut about 10 minutes worth out, and I'm just going to talk fast and get excited, and that combination should do it. Okay, so this is me. This is the bio I sort of gave myself for the Data Viz Society. So basically, yeah, there we go, 20 years in market research. But since then, I've just got excited about data visualization. I've had various roles awarded to me, the sort of community roles, if you like, from Tableau, because I like to get out and I like to talk and I like to sort of tell people all about data viz. I have a blog, and I'm on Twitter far too much, which means if you want to get hold of me there, I will find you, or you will find me. That sounded a bit sinister. Okay, so I love to talk about data visualization, but usually I give sort of design kind of talks. I'm even kind of famous for finding well-known album covers like that and turning them into data visualization. So we've got cricket scores which look like Primal Scream albums, and we've got the World Pride March figures which look like Pink Floyd. So I have a lot of fun doing things like that. But that, when they brought me to Groupon, yes, they brought me because of the kind of things I do and because of the excitement I have and because of the community I'm sort of part of, but also really to just sort of try and engender that excitement, but also to sort of do data viz properly, if you like. So I like to keep referring back to this, which is what my boss sent round in the first week to explain who I was. So yes, it's to try and build an analyst community to try and get some excitement in data visualization. It's worked better than I thought, because two of the guys from Groupon are here today. It's really cool to see you here. So sorry that you had to leave and still see Groupon all over the slides. But Mark knew that I approach analytics and data visualization from interesting angles, and that's okay. So you'll see a little bit of that. So what will we cover? What is data visualization? Why do we visualize data? What are pre-attentive attributes? And then we'll see some, what I think are some good and bad data visualizations. And we'll talk a little bit about data storytelling. So it's quite interesting that Andy mentioned that storytelling is something that people also mention as well as visualization. So what is data visualization? First of all, I have a correction to make. It's so difficult working. Yes, exactly. It deserves a round of applause. Right, you're going to see S's from here on in. So difficult working for an American company and having to put Z's in my department, and even joining the society and handing stickers with all these Z's out on. But right, what is data visualization? Data visualization, a book written by Andy Kurt, proud Yorkshireman and just as pedantic about spelling as I am. He has written a book, and it's all his definition is the graphical representation of information and data, or that's the dictionary definition, if you like. But he says the representation and presentation of data that exploits our visual perception abilities. So that's why we visualize data. We have all these visual perception abilities that we don't even know we have. That means it is easier, or we learn more from data visualizations than we do from just seeing numbers. Right, why do we visualize data? I've got a couple of definitions here. Again, Ryan Sleeper, who runs a consultancy and does a whole load of training, he has a really good, succinct version to find and communicate actionable insights in data. So that's why we do it. In order to, not just to make things look pretty or not just to present data out there, but to make it easier to see those insights. Another, I might claim this because I say it all the time. I did sort of hear one of my friends and colleagues mention it intrigue leads to insight. But when I Googled it, I thought maybe someone famous had said it in the Data Viz world, and they hadn't. So if I use it often enough in these talks, I might claim it. But really, it's all about, if you want to see insight, if you want to get, you have to persuade people to see the chart in the first place. From years of working in market research and just seeing tables and tables and tables of numbers and handing them over, you just can't see that insight, and you can't persuade people to want to look at decks of charts. So, yeah, here's an example of, sorry guys, a chart at Groupon. It's small, well, it's big, but the numbers are still small, and I don't really want you to see them because they're technically live numbers. But just, you can see, we've got, how many have we got here? 30, 40, 50 different metrics. We've got all this, hang on, right. We've got all this across the top, and we've got all those filters down the right, so it's fantastically full of information. It's really good. But this forms part of a pitch that my boss gives, what he calls his 2-minute pitch, when he talks to other departments about why we have a data visualization department and why we must do it. And what he says is, right, okay, you've got 30 seconds, find me something really good. Yeah, it's all got quiet. And then for another 30 seconds, he says, right, now find me something really bad. And you just can't. There's no way you can have a look. Even if you know these figures inside out, you've got to really look. You've got to really find the high numbers, the low numbers, and then get some meaning from that. And then what he does is he shows them this. This is a data visualization, obviously. It's not the same data, but it's just an example of a really good, I think, visual style KPI dashboard. Straight away you can see stuff. You can see targets. You can see things in blue which have missed targets. You can see things in orange which have got targets. You can see the big highlighted numbers you need to see, big-ass numbers. That's the technical term. They really do use that. You can see what's gone up, what's gone down. You've got plenty of white space in there, so your eyes aren't thinking, oh, crikey, everything's sort of stuck together. And you can see all the figures that you need to see. You can see trends. You can see what's been happening over time. Has it gone up? Has it gone down? Have there been ups and downs in between? So it's just a really sort of good generic example. And then, just after I joined Groupon, my predecessor was giving training classes, and just he encouraged people to have a look at data. This is some data on NHS performance. It's from a project called Makeover Monday, which is a really good opportunity for people to go, just find data to work on and practice data visualization skills. And everybody thought, right, okay, here's Neil, what's he going to do? What LP cover is it going to make it look like, or how weird and wacky is it going to be? And I had to explain, no, I want to make things look clear, simple. I want to just put on the things that we're interested in. I want to leave out the stuff that we don't. I want to really draw attention using basic visualization good practices. And so that was it. So I said to Groupon has to have cats. I'm sorry, Mr. Dog Person earlier, Groupon are cat obsessed. So I said to Mark, well, okay, that's the 2-minute pitch. How do I make it go for an hour? How do I just put it on loop? Just say the same thing. So I thought, right, I'll put in an animated GIF. And they say you have to be really careful about putting animated GIFs into talks, because it's okay, but you can only leave them on screen for a little bit, because if you have them on screen for a while and you wander off and you talk sort of tangentially about stuff that you weren't talking about before, no one's going to listen to you. People are just going to see some cat in the background going over and over and over. So it's sort of bad practice to leave this on screen for too long. Okay, so what are pre-attentive attributes? I can sort of excuse this as being the science bit, but we've had a lot of data science today. Pre-attentive attributes are all the different things that we have that our brain will use visually in order to really just make things easier. So if you look at that, how many 9s are there? I've already been talking, and maybe some of you started counting. All right, someone said 10. I actually don't know, but there we go. I've heard 10, I've heard 9. I've got a feeling there's 11. I mean, we can sit and sort of count all these, but okay, now how many 9s are there? You're going to get it a lot more quickly. With all the 9, well, okay, hasn't come brilliantly in this light, but with all the 9s highlighted in red, you can much more easily go across and scan. Color is a pre-attentive attribute. Size is this is different. This might have a different number of 9s in, but size is a pre-attentive attribute. Look at this. Easily, you can count the 9s. They're the big ones. So I want to do a test. This is cool. I can go left and right of that, the aisle there. So those of you on this side, you can see the first slide that I'm about to show after this. And then those of you on this side, you can see the second slide that I'm going to show on this. So those of you on this side, in a minute, I'll need you to close your eyes, and then we'll do a swap. Okay, so I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to leave the slide on for about 3 or 4 seconds, and then I'll tell you when you can open your eyes again. So we're going to go on to the next slide now, if you close your eyes. And I want you to just remember what you see and what your takeaway message is from the visualization. And okay, right, so you can all open your eyes. And now swap over, so whoever had your eyes closed first, you're fine, you're going to see the next one, and whoever didn't, if you close your eyes now, and I'm going to show you a second slide, so have an idea and think what it's telling you. I'm going to start now. And okay, we'll stop. So, what did you see? Let's ask I'm going to ask the second lot first. So the people who saw the second slide, what was your main sort of takeaway message, or what did you see? What did you think?
Greater rentals on Tuesday and Thursday.
Greater rentals on Tuesday and Thursday? That's I've not had that answer before. That might actually be true. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the only answer I've got there. What did you think over here? What was the key takeaway you got?
Saturdays and Sundays, greater rentals.
Yes, I heard the same thing from about 6 of you there. The key thing is, and we'll just sort of go back here, this is what the first of you saw, with one highlight color and the rest all in gray. It was easy to see Saturdays and Sundays. This is our takeout message. This is what we want to tell people. It was less on Saturdays and Sundays. And the rest of you saw this. And well done, those who said Tuesdays and Thursdays. You're actually the first people who've ever even seen anything in this. I mean, the key message, I would say, is probably, well, I've done the talk, so I know, is that Saturday and Sunday is less. But color is great. Lots of color is not great, unless you want to make your stuff look like album charts and say, look, you're not going to get the pre-attentive attribute then. So use color wisely. Okay, another one, length. There probably isn't a better pre-attentive visual attribute than length, which is why bar charts are so good. Love them or hate them. You can very easily see which are the longest, which are the shortest, and you can compare to length so long as they're all up against the one side like that very easily. Width, another one. We'll just sort of rattle through some of these. Not so widely used, no pun intended, but width is another pre-attentive attribute. Color, we've spoken about different colors, but color intensity, this one's not as good, but it is a good visual cue, if you like. The most deepest green there are representing the biggest numbers, and the lightest green you can use for the smallest numbers. And there's a few more there, pre-attentive visual attributes, so some others I didn't mention. Things like spatial grouping, slope. Slope's a really good one. It's so easy to tell if you've got a picture on a wall, and it might just be 1 degree of horizontal, but it's very easy to see. So if you want to see the difference between two metrics, a slope chart is another very good one. So I do most of my visualization in Tableau software, but that's kind of irrelevant. This is a sort of tool-agnostic talk. But I really like to comment on Tableau's their mission statement. We help people see and understand their data. And if you think about it, those two words mean exactly the same thing. If you say, oh, I see, you're not saying I've just seen something go past. You're saying, I understand. I see in my perception. You've explained it to me. And very often the word see, you're not using visually to say, I've just seen an object. You're saying, I understand that concept. So if you are seeing your data, you are understanding it better. So a few more sort of ideas about data visualization. This is Andy Kirk again. He says there are 3 stages of understanding: perception, interpretation, comprehension. But basically, if you've got a visualization, first you want to know what's it showing me, and then what does it mean? But even once you know that, you want to think, well, all right, well, why are you showing me that? So what? What do I take away from that? Another one here, this from Lisa Charlotte Rost, who's formerly a sort of preeminent data viz blogger and now works at Data Wrapper in Germany. She says, I mean, this is very similar. She's talking again about the goals of data visualization: attention and beauty, understanding, and implication. So they're very similar. The implication is your so what. But, and she's gone to explain a few more of all the different parts and elements of those three parts of data visualization. But what she then sort of says by taking it further is that if you're doing a data visualization, it's really difficult to get all three of those and to absolutely nail all three of those. And which of those elements you focus on in particular might well depend on what kind of visualization you want to do or what kind of role you have. I'm just sort of going to focus on one there. So if you've got business slides, or if you're sort of trying to produce a data visualization for your teams, your sales team, your boss, or whatever, it's not about the attention and beauty. I mean, you don't want to give them something awful, but it's not about trying to win awards about it. It's all about the understanding, and the implication is pretty important as well. If you had sort of different roles, your circles might be sort of completely different in size and proportion in relation to each other. If you were doing some data art, or if you were a journalist, for example, you would probably have an implication that would be bigger, and your attention to beauty would be slightly bigger because you want people to read the article, and all stuff like that. So, spoken again about function and beauty. Your function are your sort of business slides here. We've got Stephen Few, who's written this sort of seminal book on information dashboard design. And on the other side, we've got Information is Beautiful. David McAllis, who runs that, much more eye-catching but less analytical stuff. Most people will have sort of their favorite position along here. When I'm not at work, I like to go as far along this side of the spectrum as I can. When I am, I need to rein it back a little bit this way. In the middle, we've got Alberto Cairo, who's written The Functional Art, a brilliant book sort of trying to argue for the different elements of data visualization and really sort of put a balanced view there. And Andy Cochran from Tableau, who wrote this slide, thinks he probably sits a little bit on the left of center there. So what makes a good visualization? Mentioned Information is Beautiful. These are the award winners from last year. Information is Beautiful, run by the guy on the right there. These are all about what makes you go wow when you see it online or in a newspaper or whatever the publication is. So these are like the Oscars, if you like, the industry standard awards for cool data visualizations. And here's IronViz. IronViz is run by Tableau. There are about 20,000 people who witness this when it's run in the US. This one was the European version, where there's a mere 2,000 people watching people visualizing on stage. The idea being people are given sort of 20 minutes to wow the audience with what they can do. But they focus on the three elements being design, storytelling, and analysis. And not just with what people can do on stage, but with the feeder competitions as well, where you're encouraged to submit a visualization of your own, which will then, if you're mad enough to want to be there, will then get you onto stage, and they're marked on design, storytelling, and analysis. So the skill is in marrying those three. And here we've just had a fairly recently a feeder competition, and this was the winner. This was a winner. So the lady, Lindsay Poulter, who's done this, will be on stage in Vegas in a month or two's time. And you can really see, and with apologies to her, this is long form, so I've snapped it in two, the first half there and second half there, why this is a winner. There were a few that made people go, wow, a lot more. So there were a few that you could enter in the Information is Beautiful Awards, that's fine. But this is just really clearly done, lovely design choices, so that just instead of bar charts, she's sort of used buttons in the middle of sliders there. It looks like your sort of stereo controls, things like this. This looks, again, to me, like your sort of graphic equalizer things you used to get in the stereos as well. And it's all about the positive and negative valence, so how positive all the different Broadway musicals sound. She's broken it down to every song. We've got all the individual ones there, so you can compare and contrast, even down to Hamilton being twice as wide as the other because there are just more songs in Hamilton. And the color palette just brings out all the negative and positive looking colors, that kind of thing. Just a really nice piece of design. And this sort of kind of ties in with the last one, even though it was simple. I put this in all my talks because I agree with it so much. There is a strand of the data viz world that argues that everything could be a bar chart. Even I admit that the bar chart is pretty much the best data visualization you can get. But nobody's going to go and see them in galleries. Nobody's going to sort of click through something that's just a bar chart if it comes through on Twitter, unless it's sort of really interesting. So it's kind of a world without joy. It takes the creativity and the fun out of data visualization, not just for the creators, but for people who read and consume it as well. And then, so of those three, I wanted to focus on storytelling, data storytelling. I'll be quick, actually. I've given storytelling talks before, and I've just cut it right down for this. So, I mean, what's this? This is a story. Yes, it's got a plot. It's got its ups and downs. It's got a narrative arc. It's got characters. It has all the elements of a story. But then you could say exactly the same. This is a story. What's that? That's about 20 characters. You can definitely, it might be apocryphal, nobody knows if he actually did that, but you can definitely interpret the story behind there. And so I've given lots of talks, and this is my favorite sort of compromise definition, if you like. Data storytelling, you're not trying to be Jane Austen, but you want to put a bit more in than Ernest Hemingway. So think of it as telling a small story, an anecdote, and you can think of your tools and skills as grammar and communication, if you like. Master storyteller, Hans Rosling, you must see his TED Talks if you haven't done. He's really sadly, he died recently, but he's very famous for his sort of animated videos that he does where he shows all the countries sort of moving across. So he had animation, he had charisma, he had scatter plots, and he had a big pointy stick as well. And all that combination works for a really good data visualization. This is, again, classic. It's by Minard, and it represents the march onto Moscow and back. I have to be careful I don't fall off the stage while I demonstrate this. I'll just be marching halfway to Moscow. But basically, the width of this was the width of Napoleon's troops when he started, and as they went further and further to Russia through the harsh winter, and you've got all the temperatures and gradients there as well, he lost more and more troops. Some of them had to go off in different directions, in different skirmishes. He got to Moscow, there was nobody there. The troops had vanished. They just, they decided not to put up a battle. Napoleon had nothing to do with the troops apart from come back. The line got thinner and thinner and thinner, and that's how much he had when he got back. It's a sort of classic storytelling data visualization, and that's from the 1850s. Another really good one. This one, I'm passionate about how good this one is, and I showed it to my wife once to say, look, how good is this as a data storytelling? This is all about measles being eradicated. Here's every state of the US, and this was when the measles were, the vaccination was brought in, and look how they disappeared. And it even looks like a Petri dish, doesn't it? The color scale probably breaks a few data viz rules, but it really sort of clearly shows you what happened. And she said, no, it doesn't. And the reason it doesn't is because that's the better visualization. I didn't put the context. I pasted it into my visualization. I forgot to put the title. I forgot to put the explanation, the fact that it's measles, the fact that this is cases per 100,000 people. So you have to be really careful, even if you've got the best visualization imaginable, to make sure that you explain all these things to your readers. So, this one here in the South China Post, Iraq's bloody toll. Really powerful visualization, dark red, it looks like blood. They've got the axes starting from 0 at the top, so you can see the big spike, was it the shock and awe at the start, and then right in the middle, you can see how there were so many deaths. It even looks like blood trickling down. It's quite a powerful message. But what if we made a few changes? If we turned it upside down, if we changed the font to something that looks a little bit nicer and the title to something a bit more positive, if we made it a more soothing color, they're exactly the same viz, just upside down with cosmetic changes. This one's positive. This one is telling a completely different story to this one, but with the same data. So you're in a position of power, if you like. You can really tell whatever story you want, so long as the data backs it up. I'm going to skip over this really quickly. Check out Cole Nussbaumer Knaflic, who writes a book, Storytelling with Data, and she has a Storytelling with Data website as well. And she is a really good advocate for making clear, concise, simple business charts. Here was a really bad one she'd made over. I haven't got time to ask you all the bad things in here, so I'll just tell you about 12. Horrible axes, you can't read the font. Why is it angled? Why have you got so many things on the left there? Why is the whole thing 3D? Why are they even in circles? Why have you got blue for men and pink for women in this day and age? Why have you got one decimal point? That'll do. All these things which are just wrong choices, which just clutter and confuse. And that's her makeover. So much clearer, get rid of all the clutter, get rid of the grid lines you don't need, get rid of the extra complexity, put the takeaway comment in your headline there, and just make much better cosmetic choices. Get rid of the blue and pink. So she runs a challenge. She said, look, you can tell a story with just a simple annotated line chart. So I thought, right, I'll have a go. No one else will do. Popularity of the name Neil. And it's true. Just by making it clear, taking off all the junk, have a line chart, and line charts are usually going to be, date from start to finish. You can tell a story. I'm not sure if all those reasons are true. I suspect the Neil Armstrong reason is true. I was tempted to see if there was going to be a rise in popularity following my Data Viz talks, but I've only got data up to 2015, so we'll see. This is John Byrne Murdoch. I want to show you really quickly. I will let this start. Bar chart race. Who's seen bar chart races? How many of you saw it and just stared at it and watched it about 6 times and thought, this is cool? And yeah, exactly. And I watched this and thought, oh, look, there goes Istanbul. Not Constantinople, but Istanbul. And you thought, oh, I remember. And yeah, this particular thing is a new craze, and I love it. But just animation and things like that, which tell a story, can really add to your data visualization. I won't go all the way to 2000 there and beyond. We'll move on. And this is one of the first things I'd done just after I'd learned Tableau. Somebody was saying things that I thought were a bit nasty that I really didn't agree with on Twitter, and it was all to do with trying to equate Muslim population with Taliban and ISIS and Al Qaeda, and I thought you just can't say this. So I loaded up the populations of each into a 4x1 Excel sheet, put it into Tableau, and then said, look there. And can any of you see a blue, yellow, or red circle? I mean, they're just about up there. I can't even see the one between the blue and the yellow. The population of Al-Qaeda was just so small. So you can use data visualization to prove things a lot more powerfully. I mean, you can't make idiots change their mind, but you can at least try. And that was just sort of so low tech from a beginner, done in 5 minutes, me. So what makes a bad visualization? This is a bit of a bad one because it's a bit naughty. They've really tried to make it look like this stand your ground law. Look, our line's gone down. Wasn't that a good law? No, it wasn't, because they've started it from up the top and they've colored it in red like that, and they've really tried to deceive. It's technically true, but yeah. This was doing the rounds recently. Someone said, look, this is climate change. What climate change? But they put it in Fahrenheit from 0 to 110, which means absolutely nothing. It's just an arbitrary scale, but they've deliberately chosen so you can barely see by eye that the number has gone from 50-something to slightly more. This is Alberto Cairo again. He said, look, this is, he's about to write a book called When Charts Lie. He said this is the chart that it should be, and hopefully most of us would agree that's a much more sensible way of showing that it's the change in temperature that makes a difference, not the actual numbers themselves. Here's one from Fox News. Look at the massive difference between tax cuts between now at this bar, which is 5, 6, 7 times as big, and then you actually look, and the numbers are only 35% to 39%. I'll only tell you one Data Viz rule, which is never truncate your bar charts. It's wrong, and this is why it's wrong, and it makes you go, what the fox? I'm kind of allowed to say that. Viz.wtf is a great site for showing. But it's instructive. It shows you bad bar charts. This was on the front of the page. Look at this chart where you've got 77% of the whole said that, 67% said that, 40, we're up to about 200% already now, are we? And then you've got about 20 different things which are all too thin for you to be able to tell what they are. The reason I put this is apparently the company that produces this and gives it out, so they charge about $1,000 for this. Which is just, it's not very good. And this is a bit meta, really. A really horrible, misleading chart explaining why Fox is really horrible and misleading. Let's have a pie chart where we angle it towards us, where we've got that one much thicker. Again. I don't know if that was done ironically or not. I have a horrible feeling it wasn't. So I shall sign off now. What did we learn? Well, let's go through why data visualization is important. So it's all about finding communication actions and telling the story, helping you to understand, to create an intrigue or buzz, to get people to see it in the first place. Oh, we're so close to the end there. Oh, there we go. And make sure that you show the truth and don't lie and deceive with your data. And another cat gift. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Neil. If it's okay with you, maybe we could, if people have some questions, they can come up to you afterwards.
Yes, of course, that's fine.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'd just like to say thanks very much to all the speakers. I thought that the event tonight was brilliant, actually, probably the best one that we've done, certainly this year. So I thought we should give the speakers a big round of applause before we go off. And I don't want to be the guy in between you lot and warm pizza downstairs. So there's warm pizza and drinks served downstairs. So the quickest ones will get the best cuts, I guess. Thanks very much, guys. Thank you. See you next time.